Hello there. My name is Sarah Jenkins. Welcome to another Poetry Deep Dive today. I love Denis Martindale. He has written over 3,700 poems for the Poemhunter website. Denis Martindale has written a brand new love-smitten poem. This poem is about Sarah Jenkins. That is why the title of the poem is I Love Sarah Jenkins. Here is what the brand new poem's message shares with us today.
Okay, let's just pause on this number for a second. 3,700. I mean, that is literally staggering, isn't it? Before we even look at the text of this specific poem, we really need to acknowledge the sheer volume and the unbelievable dedication of Denis Martindale's work on the Poemhunter website. Writing over 3,700 poems, that requires an immense amount of discipline, passion, and honestly, just an endless well of inspiration. So when a poet with that kind of massive, prolific portfolio dedicates a brand new piece entirely to one specific subject, which in this case happens to be me, and I've got to admit it's incredibly flattering and very meta for this explainer, it really signals that the subject sparked something deeply unique in his creative process. It sets the stage for a poem that isn't just, a casual observation. It's a pointed, highly significant dedication.
So, let's dive into exactly how this dedication unfolds. Section 1. The Poemhunter Phenomenon, the Power of Voice. Right off the bat, the opening stanza goes like this. I listen to her when I can, because I like her voice, and in a way, I am a fan, because I make that choice. What is really interesting here is how it grounds the whole relationship between the speaker and the subject. Notice the deliberate agency. The author immediately establishes himself as a choice-driven fan. His admiration begins in a really simple sensory way, just with the sound of her voice. It's not this passive thing where he just happens to overhear her. No, he actively seeks out the opportunity to listen when he can. So right from the jump, the entire poem is framed around an active, intentional act of listening. Let's move to the second stanza and see how this builds. He writes, "It's always nice when she explains, as only Sarah does. It's good to know that she maintains such skills without a fuss." Okay, obviously I have to tackle this with a tiny bit of playful objectivity given the direct name drop. But analytically speaking, we see a shift here. The focus moves from the sound of the voice to the actual content of the words. The poet is expressing this deep appreciation for how effortlessly the subject explains complex ideas. And that phrase, without a fuss, is absolutely crucial. It points to a real mastery of communication. The speaker admires not just what she's saying, but the elegant, totally unpretentious way she's delivering it. So, if we break it down, we get a very clear list of traits that actually draw the author in. He listens because she explains things uniquely, as only Sarah does. She maintains her skills without a fuss, which shows that effortless mastery we just talked about. She sounds eloquent and she speaks confidently. These aren't just your standard vague compliments. They are very specific, communication-based skills that the poet clearly values deeply. And, for a prolific writer who deals in the currency of words all day, it makes perfect sense that he'd be captivated by someone who wields spoken communication so effectively. Which brings us right into the emotional result of those skills in stanza 3. Her comments sound so eloquent and confident as well. That's why I listen with content at all she has to tell. This is brilliant because it perfectly illustrates the transition from intellectual appreciation to actual emotional satisfaction. The eloquence and the confidence of the speaker basically yield a feeling of being content in the listener. It creates this incredible space of trust. Because the delivery is so assured, the poet can just relax and absorb all she has to tell. It's a real testament to how good communication doesn't just inform people, it actually puts them at ease. But the poem doesn't just stay in that passive space. Moving into section 2, the art of feedback, beyond just listening. Look at how the dynamic completely changes in stanza 4. She studies my words for a while, and that's why I feel blessed. Her insights also make me smile, as they're what she does best. The subject isn't just broadcasting anymore. She is receiving and analyzing. She studies his words. Now think about that. For a poet who has written over 3,700 pieces, having someone take the actual time to genuinely study his words, that is incredibly meaningful. So meaningful that it literally makes him feel blessed. The listener has become the analyst, and her insights bring him direct joy. It's this beautiful acknowledgement of the reciprocal relationship between creators and the people who analyze or explain their work. And the emotional stakes rise even higher in the 5th stanza. Her words bring comfort, joy, and hope, each angle to peruse. Her feedback's my kaleidoscope, each time she shares good news.
We are seeing the profound emotional impact of her feedback here. It's no longer just about making him smile, right? Her words are now providing comfort, joy, and hope. That is a massive elevation in emotional resonance. It just goes to show that effective feedback, when it's delivered with care and eloquence, doesn't just improve a piece of writing, it completely nourishes the artist.
Now, I want to pause for just a second because the use of the word kaleidoscope here is a real game changer. It's easily the strongest piece of imagery in the entire poem. By definition, a kaleidoscope is a complex pattern of constantly changing colors and shapes. So by calling her feedback his kaleidoscope, the poet is playfully showing how her insights take his original words and reflect them back to him in these beautiful, shifting, entirely new patterns. It offers him new angles to peruse. It means her feedback isn't just a simple critique, it's an illuminating tool that breaks open his work and reveals all the hidden colors inside it. Honestly, it's a remarkably high compliment to pay to someone's analytical skills.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the climax. Section 3, the ultimate confession, a narrative shift. All right, here is the final stanza, the grand reveal. So I reflect on all she says for Sarah's point of view, and yet today I must confess, Sarah Jenkins, I love you. Wow, the poem shifts so dramatically right here. For 5 stanzas, we had this very measured, thoughtful, professional appreciation of her speaking skills. He appreciated her point of view. But then look at the punctuation. Suddenly it's a flurry of exclamation points. The intellectual appreciation just bursts wide open into a direct, love-smitten exclamation. That careful distance of the listener completely vanishes, and it's replaced by this bold, uncontained confession, calling her out by her full name so there's absolutely no ambiguity. If we look at a quick comparison, you can see how brilliantly this narrative arc is built. These are the bookends of the poem. It starts in stanza 1 with, I listened to her, which is a state of passive, quiet appreciation. It's logical, it's choice-driven. But by stanza 6, it completely explodes into, I love you, a state of highly active, emotional confession. Denis Martindale masterfully guides us from the head straight to the heart. What starts as a polite appreciation for a voice transforms entirely through the power of feedback and insight into a deep emotional connection. It just shows how being truly understood by someone can inevitably lead to a feeling of profound affection. And that brings us to the core takeaway from this incredibly charming piece of meta-poetry. This poem highlights the beautiful reciprocal relationship between artists and the voices that guide them. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this. How does a creator's feedback shape an artist's future work? And, perhaps even more importantly for all of us, who acts as the illuminating kaleidoscope in your own life? Who takes your ideas, studies them, and reflects them back to you in a way that brings you comfort, joy, and hope? Think about that. Thank you so much for exploring this wonderful poem with me today. Keep reflecting, keep communicating, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.